What if I told you that one of history's most influential rulers continued governing his nation for 15 years after he died? What if I told you that the future of Tibet was shaped by an alliance between a Buddhist monk and a descendant of Genghis Khan? What if I told you that one of the most famous palaces on Earth exists today because an entire government chose to hide the death of its ruler? And what if I told you that this story begins in a country on the verge of collapse? Tonight, we travel to the roof of the world, a land of snow-covered mountains, ancient monasteries, secret alliances, political intrigue, civil war, prophecy, and one extraordinary man whose life would change Tibet forever. His name was Nyawang Lobsang Gyatso, the fifth Dalai Lama. History remembers him simply as the Great Fifth.
But before he became a ruler, before emperors welcomed him, before the Potala Palace towered above Lhasa, before allies fought wars that would reshape Tibet, he was simply a child. And Tibet was a nation in crisis. The year was 1617. For centuries, the glory of the ancient Tibetan Empire had faded into memory. The kings who once ruled a vast Himalayan realm were long gone. Their empire had fragmented, their authority had vanished. In their place stood rival rulers, competing noble families, and powerful religious schools. No single authority controlled Tibet. No single vision united its people. Every region had its own interests, every faction had its own ambitions, and every faction feared its rivals. Many believed Tibet would remain divided forever. Then, in the sacred Yarlung Valley, a child was born. The valley itself held enormous significance. This was the legendary birthplace of Tibetan civilization, the land of ancient kings, the cradle of Tibet's earliest dynasties.
And now it was home to a boy whose future would become intertwined with the destiny of the nation itself. His family belonged to an ancient noble lineage connected to Tibet's royal past. His father was Dudul Rabten. His mother was Kunga Lanzi. Both came from respected aristocratic backgrounds. Yet what made the family especially interesting was their religious affiliation. They were followers of the Nyingma tradition, the oldest school of Tibetan Buddhism. This detail would become important later, because the boy would eventually become the leader of the Gelug school, a leader whose spiritual roots reached into a different tradition entirely. Even before he could walk, stories began spreading. Monks whispered about signs. Pilgrims carried rumors between monasteries. Ancient prophecies seemed to point toward the child. Some believed he was destined for greatness. Others dismissed such stories as wishful thinking. But the search for the reincarnation of the fourth Dalai Lama was already underway, and sooner or later, attention would turn toward him. Across Tibet, senior religious leaders searched for clues. Different candidates emerged. Different factions backed different children. Recognition was never merely a spiritual matter. It was political.
Whoever became the next Dalai Lama would influence the future balance of power. That reality made the search dangerous. At the center of the recognition process stood one of the most respected religious figures of the age, the Panchen Lama. After years of investigation, consultation, and traditional examinations, he identified the young boy as the reincarnation of the fourth Dalai Lama. Yet the matter was far from settled. A rival candidate had also been proposed, and powerful political forces opposed the Gelug school. The ruling Tsongpa dynasty viewed the growing influence of the Dalai Lamas with suspicion. For them, recognition of a new Dalai Lama was not simply a religious event, it was a political threat. Obstacles appeared, negotiations became necessary. Even transporting the child to Drepung Monastery required careful political maneuvering. Nothing was simple, nothing was guaranteed. Yet despite opposition, the recognition proceeded.
At the age of 6, the child was enthroned.
He received the name Nawang Lobsang Gyatso, the fifth Dalai Lama. For most children, such recognition would have been overwhelming. For him, it marked the beginning of a lifetime of responsibility and danger. Because the Tibet he inherited was becoming increasingly unstable. As the young Dalai Lama studied scripture, philosophy, meditation, astrology, and history, the political situation continued deteriorating. His education was remarkable. He mastered the core Gelug curriculum, but he also studied traditions beyond it. He received teachings connected to the Nyingma school. He explored literature, ritual practice, and mystical traditions. This broad education would later influence his leadership style. Unlike many religious leaders, he understood multiple perspectives, and unlike many rulers, he was also a scholar. Yet scholarship alone could not solve Tibet's problems. The nation was drifting toward confrontation. The Sangpa rulers remained powerful. The Gelug school remained vulnerable. Monasteries feared further restrictions. Many worried that open conflict was becoming inevitable. Among the figures most concerned about the future was a powerful political strategist named Sonam Rapten. As regent, he played a crucial role in Tibetan politics. He understood something many others already suspected. The Gelug school could not survive through spiritual authority alone. It needed protection. It needed allies. And somewhere beyond Tibet's mountains, an opportunity was emerging. His name was Gushri Khan. To understand the next chapter of the story, we must understand him. Gushri Khan was not Tibetan. He was a Mongol ruler, a leader of the Hoshut Mongols, a warrior whose lineage traced back to the family of Genghis Khan. For centuries, Mongol armies had changed the course of world history. Empires rose and fell beneath their horses' hooves. Kingdoms trembled at their approach. Yet Gushri Khan was not merely a conqueror. He was also a devoted Buddhist, deeply committed to the protection of the faith. When he first traveled to Tibet, he did not arrive as an invader. He arrived as a pilgrim, seeking teachings, seeking spiritual guidance, seeking blessings from the fifth Dalai Lama. The meeting between the monk and the warrior would become one of the most important encounters in Tibetan history. One carried prayer beads, the other commanded armies. One spoke the language of spiritual authority, the other understood the language of power. Neither man could fully know how significant their alliance would become, because events were already moving toward war. As the young Dalai Lama focused on religious duties, Sonam Rapten quietly expanded contacts with Gushri Khan. Messages crossed mountains, negotiations continued behind closed doors. A partnership slowly emerged. At first, the goal was protection, but circumstances would soon transform protection into something much larger. Because Tibet's political crisis was reaching a breaking point, and when the storm finally arrived, it would reshape the future of the entire nation. To be continued.